So good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Flynn. You're all very welcome and delighted to see you this morning. Great interest in this discussion. So looking forward to getting into that. And if you could pop into the chat, the fact, if you've arrived, we do a normal weather check, I think, at the beginning of these discussions, just to see how everybody's getting on. So please say hello to us in the chat to see that you can hear us and that you can see the screen and so on and so forth, and that all our technology is working well for you. We're delighted to see you this morning. Great to see you, Tara, Caroline, Gilda, Jacqueline, Emma. Delighted to have you here. Delighted to have you all here, and um, looking forward to that discussion. Some from our own team as well. I see Brian is here, and just I'll just take this moment to say it's a busy time for a great place to work. So the team is all working very hard in terms of supporting people as surveys are running at the moment. Claire and her team with Sinead, Joseph and Des are very busy preparing data, running surveys and supporting clients through that. And Marina, of course, and her team in terms of marketing and branding, supporting your employer brand, right? So there's a lot of work going on at the moment, and delighted just to say thank you to the Great Place to Work team, and very thankful to you as our clients as well for all your support, and as we come to the end of this particular year. So good to see everybody popping in there. And great to have you on board. The slides, the recording will be shared afterwards. So, pop any questions that you have into question and answer piece there, or any comments that you have. I hope that you're hearing us loud and clear, and delighted to have you with us. So we have, just to mention to you, the Employer Branding Summit is on next week. This is been a really successful event for us over the past couple of years. Some really interesting clients there talking about how it is they face up to the market, how it is that they attract the best talent, and indeed how it is that they help talent to self-select. So in order to get the right people coming to you and appropriate to your brand and to your business is a big discussion, and we would see lots of case studies on a fast-moving format, right? With short and to the point presentations from some great brands there, including people like Heineken, I Knew a Collection, Cisco. Really looking forward to seeing as many of you there next week. So this is for both clients and non-clients, but it is certainly very focused on helping you to front up into the market and attract the best talent. So looking forward to seeing you there. I think there are a couple of places left, but it's pretty close to full at the moment. So now in a moment where, thanks, Marina. So just this other part, we're running a survey at the moment, along with a long-standing client of ours, Core, researching on how different employers are supporting their employees through their cancer journey from time to time. At some point in our lives, 50% of us are likely to suffer from some form of cancer. And one of the things that we'd like to get from this research is, well, what are people doing out there, and how can we share that, and how can we help organizations design good policies to support people through a really critical time in their lives, or maybe somebody belonged to them going through that critical time in their lives. And we've had clients, and we've all had friends and family who, I'm sure that there isn't anybody that isn't touched by this in some way, shape or form. So all we're looking for you is for a couple of minutes to keep an eye on that survey and hopefully populate that information, and looking forward to hearing all about that. This is a really exciting discussion. So when we put this information together and started to look at how it is that you might think in terms of the HR community advancing their career and getting the best resources and getting at the right table to have the right influence on organizations, I've learned a lot in discussing this idea with two really senior leaders here who I'm very happy to welcome onto the call. We're going to launch a little poll there in the moment, Marina, just to tee up this discussion and for you to be thinking about how it is that you're going to apply the information you're going to hear this morning in terms of your your own career, right? Because we want this to be very grounded. We want this to be very useful to you, and we want you to walk away with things that are going to be practical in terms of advancing your own career. But as we got into this discussion with Mary and Padraig, who will introduce in a moment, one of the things that I learned from it is the advice here is much broader than thinking about how it is you would advance your HR career. We're certainly thinking about that. But if you're ever thinking about how I can be more effective at work, how it is that I have a right seat at the right table, involved in the right decisions, can win the right resources for HR, then this discussion is for you. If you ever give career advice to anybody, one of the things that, again, that I discovered is much of the discussion here is applicable to anybody's career. So you might be in a position as a HR professional supporting people in their development, thinking about how you choose senior people for an organization. You might have a child or a friend or a colleague who you want to advise in their career. So the core parts of what Mary and Padraig are going to talk about is very broadly applicable. And as we go through this, I'd like you to think about how you could apply this in multiple different ways, because the insights here have been very, very useful to me. I've been around for a while in terms of the HR community, and I learned a lot from these discussions. So really looking forward to all of that, and I just want to thank Mary and Padraig for coming along. So first of all, I'm going to start to really, I think we might close off that poll there, and I think we can see the numbers here. So biggest challenge in advancing your HR career, gaining executive visibility, right? So we'll certainly be into talking about that. Expanding your strategic skills is really a very, very important part in terms of long-term future, and we'll be into looking at time horizons and future of organizations and so on and so forth. Building a strong network is going to be how it is that you show up to that network, and how it is that you present yourself there, so that you're adding value to that network and that network wants you back. And of course, developing business acumen is absolutely central. Thinking about you getting promoted is obviously a core part of it. And as you move into leadership or transitioning to a new company, because they may not have all of the options to progress yourself. So you can see the numbers in there. That your current role has a measurable impact. So 38% of you saying it has, and 48% of you saying somewhat. With 8% saying unsure. So these types of questions and those types of numbers give an indication that you're really ready for this information. And without further ado, let's get stuck in and get started. Okay, so Mary, very long term client with Cassie in Dublin, and of course with yourself. I think we've been working together now for about 10 years, I think it is.
Yeah.
And just to say, we really value that, and very thankful to Cassie for signing up for another 3 years with us into the future. So some time ahead there. And your organization has really changed and morphed over that period of time, right? So you've managed a lot of change. You have a great relationship with the HR team, but a hugely successful focus on the business as well. And it's one of the reasons why we were so anxious to talk to you, because we've seen that over time, and we've seen so many manifestations of, needing to take important business decisions in order to keep those jobs secure and advancing in Dublin, and keeping plenty of investment in Dublin and in Milan. And the consistency that you've demonstrated over that period of time, and the insight that you've given it is something that it's a great opportunity to talk to you about. You've also been the most trusted leader in 2023 across the Great Place to Work network. And again, so very thankful for that. Your experience in terms of the insurance industry and financial services is second to none. So, Mary, you're very welcome, and thank you for joining us from Paris this morning.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Yeah, delighted to be here. I think as you mentioned, it's even over 10 years since we started working with Great Place to Work. It's been an incredible journey. And the journey continues, as you mentioned, and we're fully committed to Great Place to Work over the next 3 years and beyond, I would say. It's been a fantastic opportunity for us to develop our business, to develop our talent, to attract and remain attractive to talent, and to develop that purpose-driven culture, right, over the years. And indeed, it's the HR team have played a huge role in our journey over the years. Not only the HR team, our HR team really work in partnership with the business. And I think that's critical, that, that it's not culture, organization design, organization development isn't solely in the hands of HR, and really important for all HR professionals, I think, here this morning to understand the importance and the critical role of partnering with the business. In partnering with the business, of course, you have that strategic view, and you know what you're aligning to, and you know what your HR strategy specifically needs to support and deliver on, in fact.
Okay, so Mary, let's talk about the broader HR function for a moment. How important is it to the success of any organization?
Oh, for me, it's critical. The HR function really works hand in hand, in particular with the CEO, I would say, of the organization. CEO leading the organization, leading the culture, and HR coming in, fully aligning on that purpose-driven culture piece, supporting in the communication, supporting in the promotion of the organization, in the external face of the organization when it comes to talent attraction, talent acquisition, and indeed retention once people are in. So the culture piece is critical, aligning with the values of the culture and the organization. Really, we see that then translating into employee knowledge, employee engagement, employee satisfaction, all of which, of course, is really important for the business. The core HR piece, really important, and the role the HR team play in delivering on the core aspects, I suppose, of HR. So around employee development, learning and development, providing opportunities for people to learn anywhere, anytime. Right, we've seen huge transformation in learning and development, particularly in our own organization, making tools available so that people can undertake learning opportunities on their commute to work, for example, or they can block out an hour at their lunchtime, or out for a walk. They can be listening to podcasts, training webinars, etc. So making tools available there, ensuring people have development opportunities within to advance and grow within the organization, all led by the HR team, but fully in partnership again with the managers and leaders of the organization. So there's an absolute consistency of messages right across the organization. Now, I suppose
the function is very broad when you think about it that way. Like, there's a lot to it from the point of view of the admin on the one hand, and making sure people get paid, and all of those kinds of legislative things which are fast moving in terms of the broader environment, and all of the things in terms of supporting people to be best fit for culture. But how do you know when you have chosen the right leader to move into a very senior HR position? What are you looking for beyond that?
So in terms of the right leader, certainly somebody who has that strategic acumen, right? Somebody who has the antenna out, who understands fully what the strategy of the organization is. Where is the organization going? Where it's headed in the medium term, but also long term. So the long term piece is really critical, especially as we see organizations and workplaces transforming over time. what are the skills of the future? How are we future-proofing the organization? So these are critical elements in any leadership role within HR. And how am I planning for that today in order to be sure that my organization is relevant and fit to deliver on the strategic plan for the future? And there we're talking about technology, we're talking about talent, we're talking about skills, we're talking about multi-generational in the workplace, delivering on effectively the strategy of the future. And a very important piece, which I think you alluded to earlier on in the intro, Jim, is the stakeholder mapping piece. If I am a leader in HR, who are my stakeholders? Have I a clear stakeholder mapping? Because those people are going to be critical in the success of what I deliver in support of that strategic plan. So
what kind of, I mean, beyond the employees, what kind of stakeholders are you talking about?
Very broad from HR point of view. Indeed, again, any senior leadership role, you're talking about board of directors, having a seat at the board of directors table. Some boards will have remuneration nomination committees. You may have a seat at those tables. You have a huge, from a corporate governance point of view, you have a role in succession planning. You have a role in ensuring that succession planning plans are live, up to date, and that they're projected into the future. Regulators, like where I work in financial services, heavily regulated industry, not only by our home regulator here in Ireland, Central Bank of Ireland, but also in our 6 countries of operation across Europe. So here you're looking at everything from fitness and probity. You're looking at senior executive accountability regime. I won't go down the regulatory route now, but there's a huge amount of regulation here that does actually have to be complied with, and sanction screenings.
That all sounds like great fun, Mary. Yeah, I mean,
it would get you out of bed in the morning, indeed. But so the board of directors, remuneration nominations committee, senior leadership team in our situation, and many of our people on the call this morning will be a subsidiary of a large group, which may or may not be based in Ireland, right? So here we have another dimension, which is really critical for us, and that is the group dimension. And hence I'm in Paris today with my Crédit Agricole colleagues. And there we have ambassadorial duties. We have really lobbying duties. We need to ensure that our companies are well supported, well sponsored locally in Dublin. We feed into the Crédit Agricole global HR project initiatives, strategic initiatives, and in many ways we lead on some of those initiatives, and we find that our practices are being rolled out in other entities globally, and that's very positive for us, and it gives us great profile across the group. So the group piece is critical, and then of course all of our employees are really important stakeholders for us. Listening to the voice of our employees, what's important for them, delivering on initiatives that are important for them, in particular in the current climate, well-being, work-life balance, flexible working, hybrid working, all those particular points. And of course, then we have the society around us. So our HR team would be heavily involved in our culture and values initiatives, and therein we would have, of course, a charity of the year element, whereby we're giving back to society. While we don't particularly do business in Ireland, we're contributing to the society locally, and of course CSR, environmental awareness, etc. as well. So we've got a huge network of stakeholders. Really important to have those mapped out well, and to engage and to know the right frequency and the right time to engage. So if, as an example, our budget process is in June, so June 2025, we'll certainly be engaging, all along the way, right up to the point where we're submitting budgets for approval for the 2026 calendar year, as an example. And that would involve a huge amount of trips to Paris and a couple of glasses of wine, but lots of conversation.
Yeah. couple of glasses of wine are essential to most conversations, really. They're at least helpful. So Mary, in some ways, what you're saying is that the core skills around being a very successful HR professional is about, over a period of time, moving your time horizon from the more immediate things that need to be done to a longer term time horizon, broadening the attention that you're paying to the number of stakeholders that you have, to going from internal stakeholders to external stakeholders as well, and then coming to the table with proactive solutions that will help the organization change. I mean, you've managed, you in Dublin and your team have managed enormous change over that period of time in terms of technology, regulation, different focus of the business moving from one division to another within the Cassie Group, all of those kinds of things. So Barbara's support there in terms of helping that transition be successful, it has involved all of those things, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I'd imagine many of the organizations represented here this morning are in transformation mode of some description, right? And we indeed have had a huge transformation over the years, and we're about to undergo another transformation journey over the next, let's say, medium term again. The role of HR there, again, absolutely critical at the strategic level, at all levels, in fact, really from a communications point of view, from a change management point of view. So these are all critical skills beyond the core HR skills, that we have a very clear change management plan, that we have a very clear communication plan, that we communicate to the concerned and the right people at the right time. It will be a very positive transformation indeed for us, but at the same time, never to underestimate the importance of effective and consistent communication. And I suppose in a way, it's something the Great Place to Work journey has taught us over the years. It's a template that I absolutely promote as for any leader in any business. That we have that consistent communication around strategy, where the organization is going, giving that rationale, explaining the why we need to undergo the transformation journey that we're about to undertake. And as we see markets changing, as we see the world around us changing, the need to project ourselves longer down the road. So we're currently working on a 10-year vision, for our next strategic plan, vision 10 years, medium-term plan 3 years. We are looking at the skills of today. Will they be relevant? Are they what's going to take us to tomorrow? We're looking at technology. How can we best harness the technology available effectively to drive productivity and efficiencies within the organization? Skills. Where do we get the skills we need for the future? So that entails then a whole, I suppose, HR strategic shift around developing a good part of our skills internally, for the most part, partnering then with universities to develop that talent pipeline of the future, and providing opportunities for internships and work placements for those university students who will ultimately have a good experience and come back to us once they finish their undergrads or masters, as the case may be.
So Mary, imagine you're sitting on a board of another organization right now, and somebody you've spoken very clearly about how important HR is. You've spoken very clearly about how broad the impact is in HR and the number of different stakeholders that are involved and the need for the future. Mary or Tom walked through the door pitching themselves for this senior position, and you're on the committee to choose. What are you going to pay exquisite attention to? I mean, it sounds there somewhat overwhelming that there are so many things involved. And I could be kind of wondering right now, God, would I ever see myself in that position, considering the broad span of things I have to take into account and have skills in? What would you pay exquisite attention to in making that choice?
I would certainly pay real attention to the strategic piece, the HR professionals' understanding of the strategy, again, where the strategy is going. HR effectively is an enabler of that strategy in terms of the people that we attract, that we bring into the organization in order to deliver on that. So that's strategic alignment, I suppose, understanding how HR will deliver on the strategic goals of the organization. I suppose the performance metrics piece. So you can have a fantastic HR team working extremely hard. How do we communicate our deliveries? How do we communicate our success? How do we communicate that we're actually the team that is supporting the implementation of the strategic plan? So there's a whole metrics piece there that's really, really important. The change piece we mentioned.
So I'm just going to interrupt for a second just to make sure that I'm getting that properly. So what you'd be looking for is somebody who's a really excellent understanding of the future of the organization, where it's going to go, and then translating that in terms of metrics into day-to-day operations and grounding that across the organization so that they have the information and the intelligence that will support the delivery of the strategy, and to be able to manage their stakeholders with those KPIs, but adjusting every action that they take to support the strategy. The strategy becomes, the business becomes the North Star in every decision I make.
Absolutely. And communicating then the regular, consistent reporting on those metrics. Very important that all leaders, all managers in the business have an understanding that the HR team goes beyond the core work, the core day-to-day, but is your strategic partner and the critical function in the delivery of the plan. That change piece we mentioned, really important. We understand that people react differently to change. So some people have an appetite for change, others fear change, and to have that temperature check of the organization to know where there may be pockets of people who will fear, and how we build a communication plan that will talk to everybody regardless of their reaction to change. That stakeholder understanding, again, critical. When we need budgets, we need to be very, very close to our sponsors and stakeholders who will ultimately be approving. So we have to have, again, the metrics, we have to have the rationale, the business case, all of those important points very clearly, succinctly ready to communicate to the stakeholders, and being very aware of who they are.
So when you're sitting on a board, you're essentially saying to the board, this person, choosing this person and having these particular skills is essential to the overall organization's success. So it goes way beyond what people could assume is a core function.
And absolutely. It is the strategic partnering piece. And then on top of that, then we're talking about the values and the purpose and the alignment, and ensuring that in transformation, in change, in delivering a long-term strategic plan, that you maintain the purpose and the culture piece. And that's ultimately another enabler of the success of your plan, right? And HR leadership in particular, really important in that part.
Mary, thank you so much. I'm hoping that you'll hold on for some questions. We hope to get some questions there towards the end and create some space for that. And I know we could talk to you for an awfully long time about this, and that's been really interesting. Padraig, thank you also for joining us. Right, so you're hailing from Carlow at the minute, and in leading Unum there, who's a provider of support for people in the US around their income support, I understand, isn't that right? Part of an 11,000 person organization driving the sort of technology that supports that business, managing how many people now in Carlow, Padraig?
We're 301, not that I'm measuring it, but 301. Yeah, so you're perfectly right, Jim. Yeah, we provide supplementary income protection to US employers that they provide to their employees. And we do that for 45 million people in the US. And
Wow.
we're based, so 9 times the size of Ireland, which is always an interesting way to think about it. And we're in Ireland for the last 16 years. From a talent perspective, so hugely relevant to today's discussion. And we've a technology center and digital operations center here of 300 people, all working as part of showing Carlow up as just another US town, as part of that overall 45 million opportunity that we actually have.
And you have a very deep you're an engineer originally, you have a very deep technology background in many different organizations. So in addition to your experience of leading in Carlow and that big team there, you're drawing a lot of experience from a lot of organizations so it's going to be really interesting as we get into it. And also thank you for also committing to us for the next 3 years. So we appreciate that, and we enjoyed working with you so far and building the Carlow employer brand that there is.
Right, no, appreciate it, and really value not only the, I suppose, the benchmark data and stuff like that we get from Great Place to Work here locally to make sure that we're an employer of choice, but also the insights from yourself and the team in terms of actually getting beyond those data, to actually start to say, okay, is something like this going on? Is there something that you need to play, more listening to, etc. So that's hugely valuable in terms of partnership.
So Padraig, and thank you for that. So Padraig, again, look, you have built great relationships, over the years with HR professionals, and really understand the significance of the function. When you think about this, and you think about the questions that we're discussing there about the significance of HR and the HR professional and senior professional here, how do you think about it?
Firstly, there's a lot of similarity to what Mary has said, right? A lot of resonance there, which is good, right? So for the first word that comes to mind is partnership, right? In terms of actually somebody that is a business partner, and by that we mean really a leader and somebody that sort of nearly has an ownership mindset. It's not that you own the company, but that you're moving with that authority, you're moving with that concern. With that sort of level of sort of curiosity, I suppose, about the actual business. So rather than just being an expert in your function, you need to be a piece of all other functions as well. You need to understand what's going on for the finance people, what's going on for the actual sales people, the operations people, etc. And you're an equal partner and owner in those conversations. And you need to actually lean in and grab that. And that's what you're looking for, because it's that. It's that change partner, that strategic change partner that Mary talked about, that really start to kind of amplify the whole organization. So it's a super critical role, and it's a great career, I think, for people to be in because there's such a variety in it.
So then when you see somebody partnering, right? How do you know that they're an effective partner with each of those functions?
Yeah, so I'll try and use some, I suppose, frameworks and stuff like that, just as we actually talk, just because it can be more memorable maybe. But and Mary touched on this as well about horizons, right? So generally you try and think about a business and across 3 horizons. You sort of horizon 1, which is your sort of operational sort of context, is generally your 12 to 18 months type sort of context. You have horizon 2, where you're sort of driving maybe some operational change or whatever within the business, or something that you want to see happen within the core way the business is positioned today. And then you have horizon 3, which is sort of that sort of strategic change, where you're thinking more transformationally about actually where the business is going, etc. And you expect the HR leadership to actually be part of all those conversations and driving and challenging those conversations as an equal partner to a sales or finance person or whatever. And it's not that those are 3 sequential things. They're things that are there's some horizon 3 embedded in horizon 1 today, right? So you can spend some of your time today thinking about what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to spend a chunk of your time talking about what's going on, operationally as well. So I suppose your HR folks that you're actually working with are partners. They're going to be operationally excellent in what they do in Horizon 1, but they're going to be sort of doing it in the context of knowing where we want to bring the business in Horizon 2 and Horizon 3. If that makes sense, that actually that the actual muscle that we're developing internally in terms of the people and talent and culture and leadership within the actual business is actually, we're doing that in the context of a journey where we're going somewhere. And they know the why of what we're doing.
I'm a HR professional and I'm very busy today, right? And I've got 150 things that need to be done today and done this week. And I've got these metrics that I have to report on, and some stuff to send out to the US and so on and so forth, right? And make sure the wages are paid. And I'm good at that. I'm really good at it, right? And I'm really effective. Where do I find the time? Where do I find the time I would say, to have these other time horizons at the same time and to take that level of interest and knowledge in the business?
Yeah, I suppose you can look at it different ways. I suppose you can get everybody can get overwhelmed with the operational Horizon 1, right? And that is can be some people's reality, right? But the Horizon 2 and the Horizon 3 actually give a context. Because like if you just focus totally on Horizon 1, then you're essentially looking here, and you get that sort of I once said, there's the theory of the busy fool, right? You never get the chance to look up and actually put shape on what you're actually doing. So it's like going out for a walk every day, right? And not knowing where you're going to end up. Whereas actually trying to do it in a way that you're training for a marathon or you're training for something else. It gives it a lot more context, so it puts a why, why what we're doing today is important. And I think that's critical, because otherwise your head is too buried in the thing, and your feeling of empowerment and impact is missing because you're too much in Horizon 1. So if you take that Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3, and you use it as a way of analyzing your own sort of workload and mood, if you're not having smatterings of Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 in the conversation today, then you're probably in that sort of overwhelm mode. You're probably in that short-term focus. And, in terms of your actual career advancement and stuff like that, going back, your impact in the business is probably only being felt at the issue level and not being felt at the actual change or strategic change levels.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a HR professional, just so that I'm checking my understanding, one of the things that I should be doing is reflecting essentially on how much attention I'm paying, not necessarily time even, but how much attention I'm paying to each of those horizons, and how Horizon 2 and 3 can inform Horizon 1, so that I'm making good decisions here and now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that we're sort of saying that you need to be spending 50% of your time thinking about, in a tower, thinking about the future or anything like that, right? And there's no good guidance. There's some talk around sort of, 70% in Horizon 1, 20 in Horizon 2, and 10 in Horizon 3, so 70, 20, 10, or something of that ilk. But it'll vary depending on what the actual challenge is there for the business. Yeah. But I suppose if you're to lean into your role being a business leader and being a business ownership type mindset, then you owe it to your stakeholder community to actually look further out rather than just being operationally excellent at the issues as they actually come at you.
You owe it to yourself in order to be successful and have the biggest impact on the organization. And essentially, if what I think what we're saying here from each of you, unless I can do that, I'm going to limit my opportunities to progress, but I'm also going to limit my impact, and I'm going to limit the ability to be at that table where that decision is taken and to have an input in relation to that decision, or to partner. That's essential part of partnering, is having an understanding of the business, the strategy, and being able to integrate it and implementing that from there back.
Exactly.
Okay, so another question for you, Padraig. What kind of people should avoid HR?
Yeah, that's a difficult one in some ways, right? Because in scaled HR functions, or you're part of a large group, some people are going to be technically very, very good at a specific domain, right? So theoretically, HR could be for everybody, right? Depending on the scale of it, right? But I think people that sort of maybe there at times you end up with people that maybe drift towards HR because I'm good with people. And I'm a good listener and whatever else. And they're great skills. They're absolutely great skills and core skills. But if you're somebody that's going to digest every concern in a way that it might cripple your context or the way that you actually look at the actual business, then you need to be very aware of that, I think, right? In terms of actually making sure that, you are part of the business, right? You're definitely very attuned to the individual concerns, but you need to also you're trying to coach and mentor and mediate at times between maybe managers and teams to actually try and create a different type of business outcome. So I think sometimes you find people that are maybe they get crushed by their own listening or by their own empathy, and it sort of limits their impact.
I was thinking about you mentioning, when we were chatting about this the other day, and one of the metaphors I was thinking about is when somebody is drowning, you have to be very careful how it is that you support them. Otherwise, everybody will drown. So being able to move in the right way that protects yourself so that you can best support somebody getting into that, and being able to have that helicopter view and good boundaries is going to be how it is you're going to be most effective. But that's a skill that's really important in terms of not getting bogged down, isn't it?
It is, and it's a very sophisticated landscape or environment that HR sort of sits within, right? Because it's coaching skills, but it's mentoring, influencing, mediation and stuff like that as well, and trying to do that in a way that actually moves the conversation towards the right outcome for the individual and the actual business, right? In terms of amplifying people's impact on the actual business, and that's a complex, that's every bit as impressive as any sort of strategic coaching that's rebranded by a consulting company anywhere in the world, right? And that's impressive.
It is. So that's a skill that all of us have to work on to some degree all of the time. It's not possibly something that we could ever consider ourselves having mastered. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it definitely is it's a muscle that builds. I think it builds and builds. You need to invest in it and be aware of it. But it's it's a core thing, and it's and being able to then, I suppose, help leadership teams to actually build that themselves or be aware of that. Is the next sort of evolution of that in terms of building strategic impact.
Okay, so then for each of these things, they are applicable to other business functions in many ways, aren't they? The person who, I'm going to say, guards their own domain and thinks of their own domain as an independent island, if you like, is not going to be that successful over time.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's when you ask the question, but I suppose, how do you think about the HR function or the HR leadership and stuff like that? I generally don't think of it as HR, do you know what I mean? Which is probably when it's working well, do you know what I mean? It's just the partnership, the leadership, the whatever else, right? Obviously there's a domain that they're specifically responsible for. And I'd say the same for sales, finance, operations, right? You know what I mean? They are your sort of leadership team, right? And they need to move again with that sort of ownership mindset of the business. And it's not that they actually physically own the business, it's just that they move, because that's leadership, I suppose. That's what people want from them, is to be able to actually sort of set the direction, set the journey, help others along, and think about the overall outcome rather than just my own patch, to your point.
Okay, so the things that made you successful earlier in your career, where your domain experience is in the foreground and you have to excel in that needs in some way to move into the background, and the business and strategic priorities become your North Star and become the piece that's important in terms of you moving into a more senior position.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are we doing things? Why are we winning? Why are we losing? From a business perspective, from the outside in, the same way as somebody, would say that was maybe potentially looking to invest in your company, that they would look at it just at a very Fisher Price understanding. So why do we win? Why do we lose? Why do people work here? Why do they not? Do you know what I mean? What are the capabilities we need then across those three horizons, to Mary's point as well earlier, like in terms of, if there's strategic change and other things coming. So what are we going to do in the future?
I have an excellent question in here on the chat for both of you, just to kick off some questions. And it's essentially, I'm a one-person HR team in an organization of 130. How do I get around to all of this?
I suppose I'll answer that in the same way I think as we did touch on earlier, right? Which is basically, given the fact that you're likely to be overworked and stretched, do you have to get to everything? Is one question that I always ask myself, right? So if I'm looking at the business from the outside in and trying to figure out what the strategic context actually is, that allows me to prioritize, right? Because everybody, I could say the same thing or whatever in terms of my own job, or you could as well, Jim, or others, so actually everybody needs a way to actually filter, and filtering on the actual priorities that are going to have the most impact or most valuable, and being conscious about what you're letting down, I think is a tool that you just need to build.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think you have to be very military style with your time, where you're spending your time, carving out the time for the important pieces. And at the end of the day, the future of your career is an important piece. Now, I don't say you spend 50% of your time, but you know that on a monthly basis that you spend a particular block of time thinking about yourself, your future, and where you want to get to.
Okay, so as we are open to questions, and one of the questions that we got in there beforehand, I just put this to both of you. What would be the 2 or 3 pieces of advice you'd say that you would give to people in the HR community in order to be most effective and most successful?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure, Padraig. Yeah. So what I've heard from you so far is partnering early,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
having a really great time horizon in terms of those stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, and then having the sort of deep ability which has to be developed over time, and which is admirable, to be able to empathize and listen without getting completely bogged down, because you need to have the sort of broader helicopter view in order to be most effective. Is there anything else that you'd say that would be worth people sort of considering in all of that?
Yeah, so I think you have it right. So you've partner early, learn the business. I think scanning externally. So we all think what we're doing is unique, or we have the same sort, or that our challenges are unique. But actually putting yourself in a position where you can actually move around your peers in the industry and stuff like that, and learning from them and what they're doing, I think that's hugely important. And I think the other thing would be sort of that, like this, the function is a function of change, the HR function, and sort of having some theoretical models that you can use, because that helps others to understand. I think that's a useful sort of tool set. So build a tool set or a toolbox for yourself, that you have a way of talking about change, etc. I think that could be really useful.
And you sent on a reference there to some sort of core change models, Padraig, and we'll share that in the chat. Marina has it, right? So we've got people like Cotter and so on and so forth. Any one of those models are very useful in terms of thinking about change, and it's useful to have those models at your fingertips, and to work through a problem through any one of those. I was brought back to my studies from years ago when I saw Kurt Lewin and all of that there, right? So that's good to have those things. There is as solid and as effective as ever, right, in terms of managing change.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, Mary, what would your core pieces of advice be?
Similar enough to the points that Padraig mentioned there. I think the future proofing piece is really important, both future proofing your own career and future proofing that organization piece in terms of culture, in terms of technology, in terms of skills. all the time aligned to that strategic dimension and the 3 horizons mentioned by Padraig as well.
Mary, I have a question there. Oh, sorry to interrupt you there, but I've just a question that's come in, which is interesting, and I know it's come up in our discussions, right? And sorry for interrupting you, but the balance between performance and a great culture, is that a false dichotomy? Is there a balance there? How do you achieve that balance? Or is a great culture a high-performing culture by definition?
I think great culture brings great performance, right? That's something I've been convinced about for many years. And how you get to great performance is clarity around where the organization is going, clarity about what are the objectives of the organization, clarity about making those strategic objectives very real at a departmental, at a team, at an individual basis, so that everybody is 100% clear on their contribution to this big thing called strategy, right? So it's really simplifying simple messages. When people understand that why they get out of bed on a wet Wednesday morning, to come to the office, that they're contributing to something bigger, a bigger picture, a bigger piece that's purpose-driven, that's protecting customers in our case. That's powerful, and people really excel and deliver. Certainly, I would say, when you get the culture piece right and people understand the why, and no matter where they sit on that value chain, that they're delivering through their daily objectives to the strategy, then naturally you get performance there. I've been very convinced of that over the years. Put a lot of work into that. Simple messaging, really important. Now, Padraig probably has similar situation. We've 25 plus nationalities, various levels of English language. That has forced me as a leader, and indeed our HR leadership, to make our messages very simple, very clear, understandable by all. And the most important thing is to check then, are people understanding what you've delivered in the same way? And there you can find surprises from time to time. And really, it does warrant a check and verification. And it's an excellent communication exercise in general, I would say.
Okay. Another question in there from Tara is and I'm going to interpret this somewhat, but moving from a generalist role into a business partner role. I know from discussions there earlier with you guys offline, that one of the things that sometimes it's an advantage, isn't it, to move into HR from actually a function, because you already possibly understand the business. So in some ways, that could work very much in somebody's favor if you have a good kind of strategic understanding and a good business understanding coming into a HR role, couldn't it?
Very relevant. Coming from the broader business into HR, fully understanding the challenges of the people on the ground, right along the value chain, coming with knowledge of the value chain and those challenges that are faced. You would certainly facilitate your ability to understand what talent is needed within the organization, and I suppose the other broader challenges that HR facilitate and partner with the business on, such as culture, such as engagement, such as learning and development, and those future skills piece.
Padraig, are you surprised by how common the message is here, let's say between a financial services organization and a technology organization like yourselves, in terms of how much you guys have in common, when you think about a senior HR person?
I'm pleasantly surprised, I suppose. Let me put it that way. And it shouldn't be in some ways, right? Because I was even thinking about this before. I suppose we're all talent businesses, no matter what industry we're actually in, right? We may have a different value proposition or different segments and stuff that we actually go after, but in today's world, like it is talent, right? That actually is the actual, ultimately the differentiator, right? And what we're creating, I suppose, as leaders is that sort of environment, the employer brand, the employee proposition, etc. within that, that makes us an attractive place, a great place to work, right? Somebody should use that word, or those sorts of words, right? But that's really it, right? You know, it's sort of, it's trying to actually get the right and relevant talent and ingredients, and being able to actually show people that we're listening to Mary's points, right? That we're engaged with them, and that we're committed to them in terms of helping them to actually evolve their careers in the context of our own businesses.
And I think just further to that, that we don't forget that HR stands for human resources, and it's the people who deliver on the strategy, and it's the people who protect the customers and deliver for the customers. And that's a point that I feel very strongly about also, that while we have talent and we have all those wonderful HR processes that are core, it's the human we're dealing with at the end of the day who will deliver on the strategy for us.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to both of you. You're both such inspiring leaders. Your grasp and your broad and easy way of talking about this and about translating it, but also your deep insight and strategic knowledge is just so evident to anybody listening to you talking about here. So deep admiration and thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules and very busy schedules to come on and discuss this with us today. It's just, it's not often I say this because possibly I'm from Cork, but I'm certainly very inspired by it, and I'm very thankful to you. It means a lot to us, and we're very grateful for your willingness to share with the community, because that's also a great indication of you guys as leaders to do such a selfless act and to be so straightforward in terms of supporting people in their own career development. It's real mentorship, and it's real leadership and guarding the talent of the future. So I'm very grateful to you to that. Very grateful to all of you who joined us today on the call, and of course to Marina and to the Great Place to Work team for supporting us as well. And thank you so much for the pleasure of working with you. We're very grateful to you both. Have a great time in Paris, Mary. I hope it goes really, really well.
Thank you, Jim.
And equally glamorous, Carlo, Padraig. I hope it goes well. And thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Take care, everybody. Thanks a million. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.